Good evening. This is the Lion of Legend, and welcome to Obscura. What's your safe word? Well, this is quite the start. What is my safe word? I don't have one. But if I did have one, what would it be? Alright, give me a minute to think of something here. We will make this safe word applesauce. If you ever need or want to pause gameplay, you can press the safe word button in the top right corner. This pauses the game and takes you to the safe word menu. The X key will also take you directly to the safe word menu during gameplay. Leaving the safe word menu will take you back to the game. The safe word button is hidden by default, but can always be seen by mousing over the top right corner of the window. It can be made always visible in the Preferences menu. Please enjoy Obscura. How intense is this game gonna get? I guess we'll find out. No one goes into the mountain without a reason. Purpose of business? Buying. No one takes their past into the mountain. How are you gonna pay? Some funds, some work. Good luck with that. Everyone knows what it means when you go. No one says anything about it. Give me your bags. The guard looks through my things with perfect efficiency. Bored, they start asking me questions. What are you going to be called down there? Mister. Is Vesper like the canon name? Which means is Pumpkin the canon safe word? Lion. Good choice. You have a mask, Mr. Lion? What do you mean, good choice? It sounds like wherever I'm going, people are not using their birth names. No one would sell me one. Not a problem here. If you're buying, we're selling. The gate guard waves the masks hanging around the entrance, perhaps once worn by other visitors. The masks are an old custom, plausible deniability. We're all faceless strangers under the mountain. Pick your poison. The charcoal-colored one with worn lace and gold trim, the cream-colored one, the burgundy-colored one with swirling embossed. We'll take the first one. I take the mask off the wall and fit it to my face. It weighs on my head, but my mind feels lighter. I see my reflection in the mirror. The people under the mountain have beautiful taste. I hand the gate guard the money owed. Welcome to the marketplace. They step aside, allowing me passage into the tunnel in the side of the mountain. I begin my descent. At first, I have to wonder if I have been tricked in some way. The passage grows narrow, the air stale, and the path uneven. I am walking by the last, feeble threads of light that reach this deep. But then I see something, a shimmering pale blue glow from around a corner. I fight through the narrowing walls until I am able to turn the corner. The passage suddenly widens, then it opens. I step from the passage into a cavern, so massive I can hardly see the end of it. The marketplace. There are several masked people who were seated or leaning against the walls around this little entryway, and now they are approaching me. Welcome, newcomer. A fresh face. Someone new could use a guide, couldn't they? Hucksters, or perhaps petty thieves looking for an easy mark. My valuables are kept under my heavy robe, safe from pickpockets. I steel myself and march forward, past the strangers. There is no logic to this place. A fishmonger selling dried and salted fish sits next to a bookseller with stacks of forbidden tomes. A fungus man and bird keeper are bickering. If they weren't obvious scams, I could have taken one of the offers for a guide and saved myself some time. At first, I glance at each stall in turn. Out here, nearest the entry tunnel, all of the stalls are selling simple amenities or cheap thrills. The sorts of things a departing traveler might want to have when they ascend. Not what I'm looking for. It's not here. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be. Asking one of the sellers, I get directions. The rough walls of this cavern, shifting and trembling in unsteady candle and glowworm light, slowly turn smooth where natural walls turn to human-carved. The ramshackle stalls turn to ramshackle buildings to painted and varnished walls. The quality of goods on sale is improving as well. The cheap basics are behind me. Ahead are the rare, the luxurious, and the illicit. The real reason anyone comes here. Seeing the sign for an apothecary, an easily recognizable serpent coiling around a staff, I slip inside. Welcome. The shopkeeper is masked, of course, but that is not what grabs my attention. The din of hundreds of voices selling and buying and negotiating in the echoing caves is muffled, but not by much. That is because while the apothecary has 4 walls, there is no roof over the store. Newcomer, eh? What? You must be a fresh arrival. And why would you say that? You're staring where the ceiling should be. I suppose in a city with no sun or rain, roofs are unnecessary. Only thing a roof keeps out in the marketplace is thieves. A common weather pattern here. Far too common. I make an effort to examine the apothecary's mask. It's plain, plainer even than mine. Perhaps he is frugal, or perhaps he is poor by the standards of the marketplace. Well, you aren't driven in here by the weather. What do you need? I'm looking for lunar ichor. I resist the urge to explain my circumstances to the shopkeeper. No matter how meaningless or petty they seem, my secrets are one of the few resources I have in these depths. You have expensive tastes, or terrible luck. What I don't have is lunar ichor. Is that something you can remedy, apothecary? No. If money is a concern, I can make arrangements. It's not the money. I could never afford to stock that damnable ichor. Even if I could, I doubt I would be able to stomach it. The rumors were true then. That is unfortunate. Where does one go, then, to find that damnable ichor? smuggler dens, the vaults of the lords of the market, or perhaps you could take a knife to the lunar god. Failing that, the auction house may provide. It's the largest house this side of the Ruby Halls. It even has a roof. The apothecary cannot see my smile, but I hope he can hear it. I thank you for your timely advice, sir. Save your thanks for the lunar god. It'll be a miracle if you get that ichor. I take my leave of the shop. The noise rises again from loud to deafening. There are tunnels and additional caverns in all directions, but I continue the way I was going. If the walls are getting smoother and the buildings more beautiful, then I am approaching the richest part of the market. It stands to reason that is where the auction house will be. Keeping my eyes up, it takes no time to find the auction house. It is as the apothecary said, the largest house this side of the Ruby Halls. There are long chains of glowworms draped over the promised rigid roof that dangle and sway as the air shifts in the cavern. The building itself is deep, garnet red with gilded trim. Message received. You're very wealthy, whoever built this. The doors, covered in tiny engravings, impossible to interpret in the dim lights, are wide open. Bright, golden lamplight pours out into the street. People are freely milling in and out, and so I slip inside. I am underdressed for the occasion, but neither of the guards standing at the doors move to stop me. The sound of the outside suddenly dims, and I have to blink against the sudden brightness. I can hear my own muffled footsteps as I cross the plush carpet deeper into the auction house. The whispered conversations through masks make a thin fog of sound compared to the din outside. The signs are in a language I do not recognize, but I can make some educated guesses. The ornate double doors standing locked and guarded must lead to the actual auction hall. There is a short, uncarpeted hall with gleaming polished floors lined with several doors. After a second, I see a giggling pair exit one of the rooms and straighten their clothes. That explains that then. There is one door that is little more than a window on hinges left open. I peer inside for a second, only to see an ordinary office. Come in. The stranger sitting behind the desk waves to me, and so I step inside. Pardon me, I didn't mean to intrude. You can't intrude on the bookkeeper. I must always be available. You must be? How else could anyone check to ensure I am not meddling in the books? Does it really come to that? Well, I have no such concerns. A buyer, are you? Couldn't I simply be a browser? You really believe someone would come to the marketplace, to the auction house, just looking to see what they find? I suppose someone must have, in all of history. Well, if that's the scale you're measuring by. You, however, are not here to browse. No, I'm not. You're right. I am here to buy. Shall I show you the catalog for the next auction? I would appreciate it. The bookkeeper stands and hands me a sizable booklet. Do not damage it. Do not leave here with it. They open a drawer to their desk and hold up a knife. It's a little thing, but I have no doubt they could kill me with it. Then they sit again and resume their work. I flip through the book. There are objects of unimaginable value, works of art by artists even I know by name, an exquisite jeweled tiara fit for any princess, the deed to a country manor on the surface. Then, there are the wonders I could have never dreamt of. The bird wreathed in flames that never burns, the still-beating bloodstone heart of some rock nymph, a potion of clear vision. I flip a page, and am met with the miserable exposed face of a young adult. Their posture is low and defeated, but they are beautiful. The text informs me that whatever is paid in the auction will be sent to their family within the mountain. Surely not. I flip the page again. There are no other people in the catalog, but one is enough to turn my stomach. Thank you, bookkeeper. Finished already? What I want isn't in there. And what is it that you want? I'll check the history. See when it was last sold. I bite my tongue for a moment. Lunar Ichor. An unlucky one, aren't we? I couldn't say, if you would, bookkeeper. They shuffle through a notebook. I try to read the text, but it is nearly impossible to interpret their faint pencil scratchings. More bad luck to heap on your pile, I'm afraid. The last sale was 3 months back. It's unlikely we'll get another sale for months yet, unless someone new comes with the stock. It couldn't be easy, could it? And what was the final price for it? For a lot of 12. The number they tell me is stomach-dropping. I could not gather those funds in a lifetime. Even divided 12 ways, the price for a single vial is well beyond my means. My life savings weigh heavily in the coin purse under my robe. Dead weight, it seems. By your silence, I guess you don't have the money. Thank you for your time. I try to keep my voice neutral. When I leave the auction house, I momentarily lose my sight and hearing as I adjust again to the dim, echoing cavern. I don't notice the direction my feet are taking me. My hopes for a quick visit to the marketplace have been thoroughly dashed. Now, I have to determine what to do. I'll save here. And I can't afford to give up. I cannot allow myself to give in to difficult circumstances. If I give up on getting the Lunar Ichor, I might as well throw myself off the mountain. For now, I need a place to stay. My feet ache from the climb up the mountain, and my spirit is draining away in these cramped, noisy conditions. I stop by a stall and ask directions for a decent inn, rest stop, public house, anything. Following the directions through a short tunnel, I wander through a quieter district of the marketplace. Though quiet is relative. The guest house is a challenge to find. Though I hesitate to call the ground-down walking paths roads, these are rest houses lining them on either side. The Leaping Bear, the guest house recommended to me, is nothing remarkable. The building has a roof, but the building itself is mostly made of raw wood. The brass doorknob is smooth under my hand, polished by the thousands of guests who come and go. Inside, the atmosphere is boisterous, but on the scale of a handful of people singing a drinking song, the chaos outside is already muffled and distant. Welcome. The woman who approaches has her face fully covered in a bear mask, but her neckline is untied and exposed. I wonder who she works for. Hello. I was told this is a good establishment to stay the night. You were told right. Except the part about night. Here, there's no real difference between night and day. Plenty of folks are up all hours of the day, As you do, just sleeping when they're tired and forgetting the sun ever existed. I see. The bare-masked woman has me sign into a guest book and pay for the night. You have the room for 24 hours. If you're staying longer, I expect you here to pay for more time. If you don't, you might find all your things at a moon shrine. I'll remember. Thank you. And you'll be needing these. She hands me a dull metal medallion on a leather string and a key. Dear Rufus over there. She gestures to a mountain of a man, also in a bear mask, standing by a door. Make sure only guests go to the rooms. That medallion proves you're a guest. Don't lose it. Or else I'll find my things at a moon shrine. Pick things up quickly, you do. Seems like an important skill to have here. Quite right. She gets back to her business, so I approach the mountain of a man guarding the door to the rooms. Hello, Rufus. I hold up the medallion and wait. I'm not about to rush a man at the bat, especially one as blood-stained as his is. Then he nods, and I am granted passage. He watches me go to my assigned room. I suppose it's a good measure to prevent theft, but then, so is a blood-stained bat. Sleep doesn't come easily at first. How can I risk sleeping in the marketplace? But it does come for me. In the metaphorical cold light of morning, I see the sense in my choice last night. I cannot leave the marketplace without lunar ichor. Thus, staying is my only real choice. I'm able to order something like breakfast from the Leaping Bear's kitchen, and then sit deep in thought, staring at a bowl of porridge. Eating in this mask is a bit of a bother. I have to navigate the spoon around the mask. There's clasps, you know. I start at the sudden appearance of the proprietress. What? Feel along the side of the mask. There should be pins or clasps holding the bottom part. I do as she said, and find little clasps holding the two parts of my mask together. Well, I feel like a proper fool. It already feels strange having my mouth exposed, like a funny kind of nudity. Newcomers are all a bit foolish, and that's part of their charm. Thank you, I think. Just keep your wits about you. You'll live. You make it sound so dire. Well, you're here, aren't you? Ha, you're not wrong. No one comes here without good reason, I should think. What's yours? A personal matter. Buying or selling. That's all there is down here after all. Buying. Something I might not be able to afford, it turns out. That won't narrow things down too much for her. Well, depends how you try to buy things, doesn't it? Money will get you anywhere if you have enough of it. But there's other roads out there. Is that something you know a lot about? I couldn't say. I only know what stories the guests bring in. She says it flippantly enough that there must be a story there, but I resist the urge to dig. Then I suppose my next job is to find what paths I can use. Thank you. Oh, not a problem. The masks trouble everyone at first. You just ask for Bruna if you have any more problems. I'll be happy to help. She sweeps away to handle another matter, and I'm left with far more productive thoughts. Money won't get me lunar ichor, but something else might. Influence, friendship, violence, guile. My body, if it comes down to it. Anything. There's a lot to think about. Am I going to stay in a guest house for weeks or months? What possible ways are there to get lunar ichor? Let's start with one foot in front of the other. Over the next several days, I get to learn the layouts of the marketplace. It's an ever-shifting rat's nest of stalls and passages and unmanaged pathways, but there are some fixed landmarks. I can navigate somewhat comfortably by those landmarks when they are visible. One evening, based on my own internal clock, the proprietress of the Leaping Bear hints over a meal that as long as I am well behaved, she would be willing to extend more generous long-term rates to me. I wasn't planning to misbehave, even less so with Rufus keeping an eye on me, and so that settles the matter of lodging for the moment. As far as the lunar ichor, I am at a loss. It is rare, absurdly rare, and based on the reactions of those I speak to about it, some aspect of it is very taboo. Likely the condition it treats. I'm wandering one of the quieter passages, clearly natural by how uneven the ground is. It's mostly homes, built on whatever smooth patch of stone the builder could find. But there is one that towers over the rest, a tall church with heavy oaken doors. Where normally I would expect to see a golden 10-point solar sigil, instead, there is a more simplistic, crescent-shaped one, the lunar sigil. Ah, I suppose the solar god isn't much help down here. I have seen the eerie blue-green light of glowworms and the smoky gold of lanterns, but I have not seen the sun since I started my descent. Churches dedicated to the lunar god exist outside the mountain, but not in any significant numbers. The lunar god, lunar ichor. It can't hurt to ask, could it? I'm not sure I believe that the lunar god must bleed for there to be lunar ichor, but there's no harm in checking. Hey, stop! I halt in my path instinctively, although, after a moment, I can see no one was speaking to me. Instead, there is a raucous crowd gathering just down the tunnel, shouting and tussling. A few people in utilitarian masks and what looks like uniforms are trying to push their way through. It looks like Trumbull. Huh. We'll go inside the church. In my haste to escape the ruckus outside, I scramble towards the entrance. Then, once I ascertain that they aren't locked, I slip through the imposing, massive oak doors. The carvings in the wood press into my palms, a surprisingly comforting, grounding sensation. Then, once the doors close, the change in atmosphere hits me. First is the smell, candle smoke, heavy incense, and cold, crumbling stone. Then comes the solemn silence, the kind that reminds you of your place within these holy walls and the oppressively tall ceiling. I'm finally alone. Even for just a little while. I take that moment to release the breath I was holding and to take in my surroundings. This is where the inhabitants of the underground come to worship the lunar god. It's also a reminder that I still haven't found any adequate leads for the ichor. When I take a couple of steps down the carpeted path between the aisles, I suddenly make out a figure behind the altar. They're wearing long robes. A priest, maybe. Excuse me. I call out, taking care to not raise my voice too loud. The person shuffles around, and I see they're masked too. Although this comes as no surprise, it's an unfortunate realization. even those in service of the lunar god aren't safe from the marketplace. As they approach, I notice the distinct glimmer of a golden brooch nestled between the folds of their clothes, proof of their holy devotion. Their entire appearance is refined and almost ethereal. A rich, silken voice. It takes me off guard. Do my ears deceive me, or has another fight broken out? The priest stops a few meters from me, and from here, I notice that their mask doesn't cover their mouth, which is set into a thin, disapproving line. You're right. It's quite the scene outside. I pause. I was hoping I could lay low here for a while. I'm not one for brawls. My star, the church will always be a place of safety for those who need it. Please, stay as long as you like. I was taught that all lunar priests call believers their stars, but it still makes me smile. Well, thank you, Father. A twitch of their lips. Cirrus, you need not call me by those stuffy titles. A man's name, I had a feeling. I doubt it's his real one, as is the case with most people in the marketplace, but even a fake name speaks volumes about someone's personality. Would you like to light a candle while you're here? Sure, why not? I follow him towards the back of the church, past the initial altar, and stop in front of the statue. It towers over us, surrounded by row after row of marine blue candles, and the sight takes my breath away. A sea of lights. I don't believe I've seen you around these parts before. Small talk. I light a match and watch the flame flicker softly as I bring it to the wick. The only rational thing to do is to answer with vague pleasantries to make sure I don't divulge important information. I'm far from being well-traveled. Think I might see the appeal now, though. Is that so? Despite not being able to see his eyes through his mask, I feel them on me. Cirrus makes no effort to follow up on his last comment, and the two of us fall into silence. You're a bit of an unusual priest, aren't you? His lips twitch again, forming into a polite smile. Would you care to elaborate? I like to keep my secrets. We're standing closer now, shoulders only slightly apart as we watch the new flame sway in unison with the rest. There's such a strange comfort to it all. I could linger here for hours, soaking up the atmosphere. I'm curious about what it's like, being a priest, I mean. Demanding answers of me while not offering up your own. Behind my mask, I suppress a smile at his light prodding. Can't argue with that. Well, I understand your caution. The marketplace is by no means a safe environment. But if it's of any comfort, my star, I am bound to the lunar scriptures. It's my job to ensure the visitors here feel safe and cared for. The words roll off his tongue with practiced ease. I like the way he calls me his star. I know that's what you call everyone, but being called a star does make one feel a little special. My answer makes him pause for a bit. You are special. Everyone is special in their own way. If everyone is special, then that kind of defeats the purpose of the sentiment, doesn't it? I'm mouthing off for the sake of it at this point, funneling the day's frustrations into banter. But Cirrus doesn't mind. I feel his eyes on me again, with increased intensity. Would you rather say you're a bit more special than everybody else? His voice is laced with unexpected warmth, teasing me like an old friend would. Why, yes, that sounds a lot better. I think I ought to be heading back soon. Errands won't run themselves. Good luck with that, my star. What can I call you next time we meet? Next time, huh? Lion. Cirrus repeats it, testing the pronunciation. Then a smile spreads across his lips. It suits you. Thanks. Picked it myself. Quite the mouthy one, aren't you? It's part of my endless charm. That it is. We bid each other a polite farewell, and before I know it, I'm alone in the streets again. I trudge through the market stalls, sweeping over any new available content as I have every single day since coming down here. Murky-colored crystals, vials filled with shimmering liquids, rare animal leathers. But nothing even remotely resembling the ichor catches my eye. The serenity that filled me at the church is instantly quashed. Instead, all I feel is dread. I've already been over this. Would Cirrus know anything? It's worth asking, and it's the perfect excuse to head back to the church tomorrow. Until then, I keep walking, because that's all I can do to keep myself busy. At night, I toss and turn. Not even the inn's freshly cleaned sheets do anything to soothe my restlessness. Before I know it, it's the next day, and I've barely gotten a wink of sleep. Bruna stops by for the usual breakfast chatter, but my mind is elsewhere. All I want is answers. Eventually, I'm back at the doors of the lunar church. Something about them beckons me, a deep magnetism that draws me straight through the entrance without a second thought. There's a different incense wafting around today. It tickles my nose with notes of mahogany and velvet. I expect to see Cirrus in the same spot as yesterday, but find him farther in this time, with an unmasked woman kneeling before him. It takes me a moment to understand what's happening. The priest doesn't say a word. His stature is imposing and almost regal, practically towering over the other person. Completely different from yesterday. I can't really make out what he's saying, but she doesn't move, and eventually, his hand finds a way to the top of her head. Perhaps he's blessing her. I wonder why the atmosphere is so heavy in here. I decide to hang back. It's not my place to interrupt whatever ritual may be going on. My eyes rove over the decor instead, specifically the paintings and the detailed scenes they depict. Massive oils on canvas, crackling with age at the edges. The larger one shows the two gods at opposing ends, dancing around the earth in harmony. Their arms reach out for one another as their endless rotations continue on until the collapse of the universe itself, unable to ever reunite. It's a little sad. Lion. I didn't notice him approach. Cirrus's tone is warm and comforting, and the smile right under his mask peeks out as usual. It's as though the ceremony from earlier never even happened. Hey, I'm back. Didn't want to disturb you back there. Back there? Oh. He tilts his head, lips stretching into a mysterious smile. Did I make you curious, by any chance? About the ceremony? Yes. Oh boy. Yeah. You both seem so serious. Don't think I've ever seen anything like it. There's a pleased rumble coming from his chest. She was readying herself for something important in her life and needed some reassurance. So she turned to the lunar god itself and demanded she be fully cleansed. Why? Simply so that she may begin that chapter with a clear conscience. More than that, I cannot say. Privacy and such. That's fine. Thanks for explaining. Either way, I'm sure you didn't come here to just spy on me and the paintings. His comment makes me smile. Maybe I did. If I could see his eyebrows, the tone of his voice suggests they'd be raised right now. I guess you're right, though. I'm in need of advice. A pause. My star, nothing pleases me more than knowing you feel comfortable enough to come here for help. Cirrus comes closer, and for the first time, I take notice of his height compared to mine. He's got to be at least a full head taller. What can I do for you? I hesitate, unsure if he really should be trusted or not. I'm looking for something. Lunar ichor, to be specific. Something in his demeanor shifts when he hears this. You're sure? Quite sure. That's quite the task. What do you need such a precious resource for? I find that I really don't appreciate him sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Oh, I see. Fractum anima. I thought that illness had very well vanished from this world. His words startle me as I instantly stare up at his face, hoping to catch a glimpse of his eyes through the holeless mask. The only better way to ensure he's telling the truth, if he actually knows what he's talking about. But I see nothing, of course. Only the intricate embossing in the metal surface. He knows the name of my illness. Wasn't expecting that. How do you... I've encountered it before, though it remains exceedingly rare. As is the cure, of course. I assume you've asked around and seen for yourself. The weight of the situation returns to me, as my chest feels like it's being crushed. I know. I feel him placing his hand on my head to give it a gentle pat, a compassionate gesture. Then, that same hand trails down to cup my cheek over the masked surface. The sudden intimacy of the gesture makes me jolt. My star. What if I told you there might be another way? I feel my hand twitch, then curl into a fist. Impossible. I wouldn't be so sure. The lunar god is a benevolent, wondrous being. Goosebumps erupt all over my skin, and my heart leaps into my throat. It's too good to be true. It has to be. There is no conceivable way he could have the answers right here, on a silver platter. Everything about this situation is making the alarm bells in my head go off. Instead of cutting Cirrus off, I wait for him to elaborate. Cirrus's other hand captures my other cheek, so my head is cradled in his embrace, and his voice drops to an octave. You're shivering. Time around us seems to come to a standstill. I don't have the cure here, not yet, but I want to help you. I see how brightly you shine, and how much you want to overcome this. I could never turn a blind eye to that kind of hunger for life. Will you let me help you, Lion? Well then, what does all this mean? Of course, How can I thank you enough? I need nothing. I am simply performing my duty, and knowing that it may save someone makes it all the more rewarding. I'm still in disbelief. My mind is overcome with a sudden wave of confusion. I need to know the details. But he's been so kind to me. I have a hard time doubting the validity of his claims. Cirrus readjusts his gloves with a practiced movement. I'll need a bit of time. Getting a hold of this substance is no easy feat. The disappointment in his tone is obvious, and I believe him. Even for someone with more influence, there's bound to be obstacles in the way. How will you get a hold of it then? Have you heard of the lunar god's healing prowess, my star? He turns to face the giant statue surrounded by the candles and motions for me to follow. I have. And how much do you know about it? As we both come to a halt, heads tilted up to get a full view of the statue and its surroundings, I respond with silence. Long ago, it was said that priests were able to receive a sample of the blood that flows in these higher beings' veins to save their people. That is the ichor that we know of today. Pure, concentrated life force infused with their powers. In this case, healing powers. Are those fangs? But there is no reliable way to get a hold of it these days. I hold my breath. That being said, this blood had once been taken and thoroughly analyzed by a man who then went into hiding. Rumor goes that he left all his notes behind after passing away. Suddenly, his explanation starts to make sense. You're saying we could find these notes and replicate the composition of real lunar ichor? Precisely. My mind goes into overdrive. How could this be the first time I've heard of it? I have to rein myself in before I get carried away. Sounds pretty illegal to me. Where do you know all this from? Cirrus smiles wide. This man went by the name of Nexus, and he was a fellow priest from this very church. I hope you know just how difficult you're making it for me to believe you. It's just not possible. Please rein in your expectations, Lion. As he uses my name, the timbre of his voice turns serious once more. I did not know him well. Few people did. He was a reserved person with not much to his name. Finding his residence, or wherever he may have hidden his secrets, is bound to be a difficult task, and I'll need all the help I can get. And even once we find these notes, there is no guarantee we'll be able to replicate it with the information we have, nor that someone will do it. The knot returns to my throat, but I have more to cling on to than when I first arrived. Well, better to try than do nothing at all. Indeed. Something grabs hold of me. Determination, unlike any I've ever felt before. Hope soothing my heart. Even if just for a little bit, I can't quite let my guard down fully. But this is a first step. Eventually, we fall into silence as we stare back up at the statue. Just checking, but it's not as easy as just saying pretty please and then having the ichor appear before us. He chuckles. Unlikely, but if you'd like to offer a prayer, that will always be encouraged. I contemplate the idea. I suppose we will give a prayer. It can't hurt, but I'm not sure how to. I don't know any lunar prayers. Allow me to guide you, my star. I nod. His shadowy mask turns my way, lips set into a neutral line. On your knees. Okay. The usual warmth of his voice is completely stripped from his command, and I very quickly realize that this must be the mindset he was in earlier when he helped cleanse the other woman. For now, I obey. Shoulders straight, hands together. The words are efficient and utterly no nonsense. It's easy to tell he's done this 1,000,000 times. Chin up, lion. Do not hide your face from the lunar god. Expose your emotions. I feel. Holy moly. What am I supposed to choose here? What happens if I say pleasure? This is strange, but my body flushes at his shift in tone. Being commanded like this makes something deep inside me unfurl. Every subsequent breath I take fills me with warmth, and every next order makes my skin tingle. My mind is so acutely receptive to every word he says. You're almost there. Simply repeat after me, my star. I don't know if he puts his hands together as well. I don't dare look back, but he begins a short prayer, speaking solemnly and clearly. I repeat the words after him, again and again. We fall into a trance, and with that, I hope that my pleas reach the moon. You did excellently, my star. He bends down to my level where I gaze up at him, mind still fogged up by the experience. I am so proud of you. No doubt they're honored to have received such a heartfelt prayer. I'm still in a haze. Words don't really want to come out. All I do is listen and subconsciously lean towards Cirrus. When I try to open my mouth to say something, his gloved thumb slips under my mask to push it up ever so slightly, just enough to reveal the lower part of my face under the nose. Allow me. I would never have allowed anybody to do this to me under any other circumstances. But in this moment, I trust him enough to see this small part of me, and as his finger sweeps over my lower lip, I can barely suppress a whimper. Easy. His smile stretches into a pleased grin. You're going to be all right. When the doors to the church start creaking, his hand wraps around mine to help me up, and as a couple of visitors begin filtering in, the spell is broken, and I snap out of it. My star? Yes, I am okay now. I shake my head and concentrate on staying upright. My inner clock tells me it's time to head back. Thank you for today. I'll come back tomorrow so we can start searching. By all means do. I'll do my utmost to find any leads and let you know if there's anything to work with. We share a quiet smile. Get home safe, Lion. I leave the church and step outside, right back into the darkness. Well, that was something. Well, I'm going to save this here as that is all the time I have for today. But we will definitely get back here in due time. Oh, I just realized this track I'm going the Cirrus route. I guess that's going to be our boyfriend for this playthrough. Well, oh yeah, there's applesauce. Fortunately, I haven't had to use that yet, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get this game yourself. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all in the next video. So have a good night.